This is Include, a Microsoft Partner Network podcast exploring our shared experiences in technology and business.
Until people of different backgrounds are in decision-making positions, it doesn't matter who is executing.
In this podcast, we're having honest conversations on how to build more inclusive cultures. Welcome back to the Microsoft Partner Network podcast. I'm very excited to have Dona Sarkar in the studio with me today. She is the Chief NinjaCat at Microsoft. I don't even want to try to describe that. So Donna, if people don't know you, please tell us about yourself. What are you up to here at Microsoft right now?
I truly believe that I have the best job at the company and potentially the world in technology. I am the engineering leader of this community called the Windows Insider Program. And this is a group of millions of people in the world who are using technology to make a lasting impact on Earth. It lines up so well with our mission that's written on the back of our badge. And insiders are people who've raised their hands and said, you know what? We love technology. We want to do more with technology. We want to help influence the direction of Windows going forward. We want to go and enable our communities to use technology to lead their lives. We want to help people use technology to further their businesses. We want people to use technology to further their educations. So summed up, they're our biggest evangelists and influencers. And I'm so lucky to be leading this community of people, engaging with them every single day.
Yeah. So you haven't been doing that forever.
I haven't.
You've had a really interesting journey that I'd love for you to share with our audience.
So just starting way back, I had never even had a computer until I went to college. And I thought, okay, computer science, I should study this because it's not going anywhere. Back when I was in college, everybody who was young and they were studying computer science were able to go off and start companies. It's unheard of, right? For a 20-year-old to go off and start a business just from, other degrees like finance or medicine or something. You're going to go to school for a long time. So I thought it was fascinating, mainly because I didn't feel like I wanted to be in school forever. And also I love the idea of having this autonomy to use technology to start a business. So I did computer science. It was very hard. And then I started working at Siebel Systems, which is a CRM company right out of college as a software developer. And very quickly I learned that the customer engagement part of the job was my favorite part, where I actually got to pick up the phone, talk to a customer about what they're trying to do, and help debug their problem. That was my favorite part. Once I even got to go to Budapest to debug customer problems on site. It was mostly following around salespeople, watching how they use our product, then realizing like, oh, we have a lot of customer experience things to fix here. It's not just technical bugs, but customer experience things, like the difference between a save button and a commit button, right? Stuff like that. So when I realized that, Siebel's getting bought by Oracle and the job was like completely in flux and we had no idea kind of what kind of customer engagement we were going to do going forward, because Oracle customer engagement is very different. You have to be this trained database administrator and whatnot. And definitely I was not qualified to do that. I started looking around and I got this really amazing position at Microsoft on the Windows Shell team, which does all of the Windows user experience. So anything people have clicked on or tapped on, I have probably worked on at some point or another. So one of the most user-facing parts of Windows, which I loved. I did that for a long time, various software engineering-y type roles. And I did a stint in data science on the Windows Shell team. Learned that was not for me because it really took me away from engaging with customers and went toward more looking at, analyzing petabytes of data rather than actually communicating back and forth with customers. Then I went to the driver signing team, where our customers are completely different people. These are third-party partners like NVIDIA and Dell, and making sure their drivers are compatible with the latest version of Windows at that time. That was very different kind of audience, but very important because unless they're successful, we're not successful, right? These drivers are incredibly important. I learned so much about that ecosystem.
That's our ecosystem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is so important. Very, very important, powerful ecosystem. Then I went to HoloLens to work on the developer platform team to evangelize to developers how to build apps for this brand new device and brand new series of APIs. And I got to be part of the team putting together all the trainings and all of the API samples, the code, the videos. It was an amazing experience. So again, customer engagement. And one day I got this incredible opportunity from one of my senior mentors and sponsors and said, do you want to lead the Windows Insider program? And I fell out of my chair at that moment because yes, I've been waiting for this for 11 years. I never thought it was a possibility. But I realize I'm actually living my dream job right now. It's come incredibly full circle. So I feel very, very fortunate.
Yeah. So you just said one of your mentors. You have a lot of mentors, right? And you also mentor a lot of others, including myself in my journey at Microsoft. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about how you're identifying who could be your own mentor and sponsor, and then how to actually be one?
That's right. I think mentorship is vital. Mentorship and sponsorship are probably the biggest differentiators in people I've seen who are achieving the kind of career success they want and the people who are not. And I would say that the onus is on the individual to identify what they need and who they can provide that help. The onus is not on senior people to go seek out people to mentor. It just doesn't work that way. So someone can't sit in their office and say, I can't find a mentor. Are you looking?
Right.
Yeah. So my process for identifying a mentor is figuring out what is it that I'm trying to do. So a few times I've reached out to people very specifically in the past was when I realized I need better stage presence when I'm presenting in front of large audiences. I was perfectly fine at presenting in small team meetings, but to audiences of 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people like I have been, I need far better and bigger stage presence, especially when the content is not necessarily like my feature operates like this, right? It's not a design review now. I'm storytelling about what we as a company are doing. So I reached out to quite a few people for some, general life coaching around something very specific. I am trying to nail my opening line. I'm trying to nail the close. I'm trying to figure out if my point is clear. So I approach people who are very good with a very, very specific ask. I was wondering if I could get 15 minutes of your time and walk you through this opening line, and I'm really struggling with it. Or walk you through the pitch of here's the message I'm wanting everyone to walk away with. So I reached out to 4 different people and really refined my stage presence ability. And then this is the most important part, as I got better, I followed back up with them and said, thank you for your advice. Here's how I applied it. It worked incredibly well. Because that's all a mentor wants, is to know, did your advice work? Or did the advice work? If it didn't work, we should stop giving it, right? So I encourage everyone who has a mentor or coach to tell them what you did. Even if it's, I didn't do anything with that because it wasn't me. That itself is feedback for the mentor. Like, okay, this may not work for certain kinds of people. That's totally fine. Sponsorships are different. You can't get a sponsor. You have to earn them by being excellent and providing value to other people. I would say be very good at your craft and help lots of people. So sponsors are people who know your body of work because you've either worked with their team. Sometimes they might be your manager, but it's often better to have people who are not, because these are the people who have more visibility in your network to opportunities different than you. So oftentimes my sponsors are actually people who I have mentored. This happens all the time where someone will say, hey, Donna, I love all the advice you gave me around speaking. And in fact, we're having a conference like, from our Do the Thing cohort that Rachel and I are part of a Do the Thing cohort. Aishwarya, the young woman who sought me out and said, I would love to get some advice from you on things. And I said, sure, I would love to, grab coffee with you and talk about it. And she said, UW, University of Washington also has a hackathon. We need a keynote speaker and we really want you to be it. What a lovely sponsorship opportunity, right? She is acting as a sponsor. So anyone can be a sponsor. It's just someone who has visibility into different opportunities than you. So my advice to people is mentor lots of people. When people reach out to you, seek out mentors based on what exactly you're trying to do and go to them with a specific ask. Don't run up to someone on the street and say, will you be my mentor? Because I think you're an impressive person. That's very awkward. It's like asking someone to prom. But, I think, Rachel, you did it just right, where you said you came and spoke with us in Macomb about how much you love working at Microsoft. I'm interviewing for this kind of position. Can you give me any tips on how I can nail the interview? Very specific, right? And I said yes. And we had a wonderful conversation, and here you are doing so well.
I know. I really do thank you for that.
Of course. And it was my pleasure.
Perfect product of having these mentorship moments.
And, what I learned was, okay, that kind of interview tip works. Because I'd never coached someone on how to interview for a marketing position before. I'd never done that. I learned, okay, it's the same as product management, actually, very similar, more skewed toward numbers rather than product, but the numbers after the product ships rather than product development itself. So that was the learning I took away by having my conversation with you. The other thing is that as you get opportunities to sponsor people, like because you yourself are privy to a lot of information and opportunities, share them with people you think are legit, whether they're more senior than you or, earlier in career than you. Share them. Say, did you know there's an opening on my team for something you might be interested in? Or did you know there's a speaking opportunity? Or did you know this, this journalist is looking for a quote from someone who's an expert in blah, like you are? Let people know. Be a sponsor. That way you'll be sponsored.
And what's amazing when you take this approach, you create a culture where different people from different walks of life are going to be involved in things that they're passionate about. You're pushing them forward. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, it's great for the company.
That's right.
That kind of advocacy.
Yes.
And that's something we're trying to talk about in this podcast. Have you always been in this mindset about creating opportunities for others and for yourself?
I have for a long time, namely because I learned that you have to ask for things. So when I first joined Microsoft, there were people who worked in recruiting, and they'd reach out and say, hey, who wants to go, do this interview or this meet the company presentation? And I raised my hand and I said, I would love to do this. And I got sent to University of Michigan, where I'm from. And I said, okay, this is perfect. This is great. So while I was there, there's lots and lots of interesting opportunities. I said, I went here. There's an operating systems class. I work on an operating system. So I'm going to go talk to the professor and see if I can get 15 minutes at the beginning of class to talk about Microsoft. And how I took this class did very bad. And now despite that, I've now been working on an operating system for a few years. So I did, right? So I created an opportunity for myself there. No one asked me to do it, but I saw something that might be beneficial for an audience. So to create opportunities for yourself without it being like, you're very self-serving is think about who will it benefit and how can you add value? The question I always ask myself is, how can I add value to the situation? Sometimes it's get the heck out of the way.
Yeah.
Other times it's let people know about an opportunity or some information. Other times it's really evangelize and advocate for that person to go do something. One of my ways is to be pushing people beyond what they thought they wanted. Because many times people are like, they have the thing they tell everyone they want, and then there's the secret dream, right? We've talked about this a lot. And one of the things I love to do is really get down to the secret dream and push people to go chase after that. Because I truly believe no one aims high enough. I've never met anyone ever in all of Microsoft and my entire tech career where they come to me with an ambition that I think is too big. Ever. Not once. Not male, not female. It's not a female problem. It's an anyone problem. They'll come to me with their short-term ambition, like, I'd like to grow to the next level, or I'd like to be a manager, or I'd like to, be in marketing, or be in PM, or be a dev, whatever. I said, sure. Or do a startup. I said, okay. But what's your secret dream, right? Yeah. I want to be, the first billionaire to do blah. No one says these things, but they all have it in their head. And one of the things that I love to do is really discover what that thing is and what kinds of opportunities should they be chasing right now so that they can build up to that. So when someone is a mentee of mine, we really get down to the heart of it. And I tell them my crazy ambitions, and then they say, mine doesn't sound that dumb now. I said, see, because I truly believe mentors and sponsors have to aim very high so that the people we mentor and sponsor will also realize that, I should be aiming high as well. So
right.
Leading by example.
So you're a woman in tech. And what you're talking about, even with your team, I mean, you must lead many people. Windows Insiders, how many are there?
Over 10 million. Yeah, it's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people that you have influence over. And you take that influence really seriously.
Yes.
Right? You're trying to find ways to work with them and find what they're passionate about.
That's right.
It's pretty unique.
Yes.
To do that.
It's fun.
Yeah. How are you doing that? And what difficulties have you come across, especially as a woman in tech, around many engineers? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So Windows Insiders, there's two answers to this. There's Windows Insiders community, and then there's being a woman engineer in tech.
Yeah.
So Windows Insiders community, I would say that the biggest difficulty I've come across is not entirely understanding all of the currencies of these humans, right? There's some people in Insiders program where I understand very well. They're mostly IT professionals or software developers. They're people who use technology to do their job better. I understand that. That's what I do for a living. I know these people very well. I know how to help them. How do they show up better to their boss? How can they achieve economic opportunity through being part of this program? That I can help. All day long I can help. The folks that are tech enthusiasts because they just want to know information, I feel like I've kind of not done my best job of understanding them, because to me, if I know something, I want to use it for something. And I assume that was true of everyone, but that's actually not true. Many people just like to know things, right? They want to know behind the scenes of how our team works, or how we choose builds to flight, or how we debug this issue. Not because they're a developer and not because they're an IT pro and they're going to go use that learning, but they just want to know.
Yeah. So I would think that our partners and businesses could be those people.
Exactly. They could be those people, though our partners and businesses, they actually use technology to run their businesses. Many of these insiders may not necessarily use technology. They just like to be in the know. And I think about that, and I can't think of many examples in my life where I do that. So for me, it was a huge miss and a big gap to not understand that this audience does exist. And I need to work with people who are like that. So now on our team, we have people who, are fans of something, not because they use that thing all the time, but because they are just fans, right? It's like being a fan of, race cars or of this band or something.
Right.
You may not be a musician, but that doesn't mean you can't appreciate the music. So something like that. So for me, understanding fandom, just the really passionate fandom. And I love our insiders because they're such vocal evangelists of our work. And one of the things I really want to do is give them all the tools and materials and information they need to continue to do that and stand out as these evangelists in their communities and make them feel really special, because they are special.
Right.
So I would say that was a difficulty I've faced, and I'm actively trying to figure out ways to kind of solve that problem right now.
With all of this, you're trying to understand people.
Yes, very much.
In the beginning, when you started working, understanding customers.
Understanding these humans.
You have to understand people. And so when you do that, both for your internal people and
the community,
for your community, it can have a huge effect in the workforce.
Yes, I'm actually going to this training for personalities, just to understand I think there's 7 personalities based on like psyche or something. But I just started a month ago, and I'm taking it 100% to understand our insiders. And I'm realizing while I'm taking it and learning about insiders, I'm also learning a lot about my team, people in my life in general. So fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
So your second question was around being a woman in tech. And I think it's less about being a woman in tech and more about just bringing different perspectives to the table.
Absolutely.
Because honestly, there's some perspectives I have that are the same as any other dude I work with. Like, yes, I think Windows is the best operating system in the world. Okay, I'm biased. Like my bias is showing because I've had a hand in working on it for so long. Of course I'm biased, So the feedback I give on Windows is not going to be better than a man's or more relatable to the general population. No, it's going to be nerdy as hell because I know a lot about this product.
Right.
So in that way, no, my perspective is not different than a man in some ways. In other ways, my perspective is so different than someone who may look exactly like me and be from somewhere else. So I'll give you the example of I identify as being Nepali. I was born there, but, I'm an American. But if someone's like, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? I'm like, okay, I'm from Nepal, geez. But a woman in Nepal who lives there is going to have a completely different perspective on technology than I will, or anything, really.
Right.
We're going to have absolutely nothing in common that we agree with, right? I mean, we're going to agree on things. But if we say, is technology something you use every hour of the day? She's probably going to say no, and I'm going to say yes. Right. Is technology something you'd like to have a hand in creating? She may say no. I'm going to say yes. So it's not a female versus male thing. It really is your history, your background, and your experience. And I think it's very important to have people's voices being heard in the decision-making part. So one thing that I really am not down with is we just need to get more girls coding. That doesn't actually solve any problem, because until people of different backgrounds are in decision-making positions, it doesn't matter who is executing on that decision, right? Mm-hmm. Like until, women or minorities or, people who are half green, it doesn't matter. Until they're the ones making product decisions, until they're the ones saying, no, actually we should invest in occasionally connected scenarios because where I come from is occasionally connected and this is a real issue. They're the ones making the decision to do that.
Right.
Until that is true, it doesn't matter how many people we have coming up through the ranks, because decision makers, they can't all be the same. Otherwise, we're going to have the exact same products we have now behaving the exact same way.
So then how do we get more diversity in the decision maker role?
Mm-hmm. I actually think there's a lot that people can do about that. One very important thing is to seek out mentorship and coaches that are very different than you. So me as a woman of color, okay, here is something I've seen a lot of younger, earlier in career women do, is seek out like 10 female mentors. I said, okay, that's interesting, but look at the people in positions of decision-making power. Are they all senior females? No, they're not. Maybe a few are. But why are you not going and making friends with and getting to know people in decision-making roles? And sometimes those are men. There's never been a time that I've sent an email to, some male manager and said, hey, do you mind if I get 15 minutes with you to talk through this thing? It's related to your area and I love your expertise on it. Like, actually, no one has said no to that.
Of course,
not once in 12 years. Because everyone likes to talk about their work. Suddenly, I go talk to them, understand what they're working on. They understand what I'm working on. They now have in their head, like, oh, next time I have an opportunity, I'm going to call Donna because I know her. And I now know what she's working on. It's related to this area. Suddenly, they're a sponsor. The onus is on us to get people to sponsor us or be our sponsors and advocates by reaching out. Again, senior people are not going to reach out to us and befriend us. Why? They're very busy. That for them to try to scale themselves to millions of people is not practical. Yeah. So if we want to be in a decision-making position, go make friends with decision-making people. That way, when an opportunity comes up on their team or they're vacating, they will call you. But I truly don't believe that men only call men. Like, I don't know any man who said, no, we're going to have to hire men for this position.
Right.
It doesn't happen in technology.
It's more of they're not necessarily aware that you're just...
that you exist.
Like, right.
Yeah,
and they're not thinking about... No. So sometimes these companies are smaller, though, too, right? So many of our listeners, and most of the community is small businesses, and I'm talking like 50 people.
Yes.
And you're wearing a bunch of hats. Yeah. There does have to be some onus on those decision makers.
Yes.
Right?
There has to be onus on the decision makers to consider their network.
Yeah.
But the onus is on the junior people to be in the network.
Got it.
100% be in the network. Talking about your work is not self-promotion. That's just information. Why would you on purposely withhold information from other people that could help them because you feel that it's self-promotional? Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Don't tie it to I did this. Tie it to this was how we moved the needle on this business, and here were the things that I did to make it happen. That's a different story than look at all the things I achieved this year. Like, it doesn't matter what you achieved. That's just movement. What was the result? Right? You can run up and down the tennis court all day, but did you hit any balls or whatever the sports analogy is? Right? But the thing is that the onus is on people to state their work in terms of business impact and say, hey, I understand you own the reselling business of SharePoint. This year, a bunch of the work that I've been investing in has actually moved the needle from 5% to 12%. And here's specifically what I did. And I want to know if you have any feedback on that or anything else you think I should be doing. That's it. That's a great conversation. That's not self-promoting. That's helping their business. And suddenly that manager will say, wow, you actually took the time to, analyze how much of an impact your work made. You're making my life better by being an advocate of the stuff I'm working on. So next time they have a position on their team, of course they're going to think of this person, right? They're going to think of who they know. It's not who you know. It's not what you know. It's who knows what you know. So people should just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Who knows what you know?
Well, and many women or younger people with older bosses, I mean, maybe it's the look, somebody isn't the same color as you.
Right.
You might get intimidated to do what you're talking about.
Yes.
I would say most of the time people do that, and you're saying, no,
get over it.
Get over it.
Yeah, get over it.
Get over it.
Get over it. Yeah, you're reaching out to people who are different than you. Guess what? You're different than them. Why would they reach out to you?
Right.
I'm always befuddled when someone says, hey, you should go interview people who you don't know. I said, how would I know them? Right? I'm always confused by that. Like, we had an opening, and I did, of course, what everyone does, which is open up the job description and then post it publicly, and then send it to everyone I know. Everyone I know is everyone I know. I don't know other people. And I tell my network, spread this far and wide. But there's not much more I can do. If someone wants that job, they need to reach out to me and make the case. They can't be hurt that I didn't reach out to them when I don't know who they are. It doesn't work that way, right? Every job I've gotten ever since the first one was not through some career site. It was because someone I'd worked with reached out to me and said, here's an interesting position for you. Or I reached out to someone and said, are there any interesting positions near you? Every single job. And so every job was gotten by a sponsor, was, pointed to me by a sponsor. And every sponsor looked very different than me.
Interesting. Well, what about if you're trying to find the right talent, which our partners talk a lot about, is technical skills are changing.
Yes.
Plus, so one, you can't find the right talent to just do the work, the technical. And then you, on top of that, you're trying to be perceived as a diverse and inclusive workplace. What do you do about that?
I think it's to go out there and be very visible and open.
Yeah.
I do that a lot. And most of our senior leaders who are very successful at this do this a lot. Go out there, be visible, be open. Say, I am leading a growing business. And in that growing business, we're trying to hire people with very diverse skill sets and experiences. And you say, here's who we have. Here's the kinds of experiences, skill sets we're looking for. If you feel that you embody these things, apply for the job. It's cool if you don't meet all these qualifications necessarily, because no one meets all the qualifications. Also, we may not even know we need different qualifications than these, right? Because we don't know. Oftentimes, it's a person with a set of interests and skills show up on the team, and we say, oh, I didn't even know this is something we should be doing, but it's something we should be doing. Like, I'll give you an example from real life. I'm working on the insiders team. One of my reports, Jason, he just came to us one day and said, do you guys want to do a webcast? I said, sure. Do we know how to do a webcast? He said, yeah, I was a radio guy in college and I'm really good at this. We said, oh, we should do a webcast. But I would never open a job description for a radio guy in college or a webcast producer because I didn't know that was a thing we needed. But because it's a skill he has, let's bring it to the table and see how it adds value. So this is why people should bring their whole self to work, first of all. But second, leaders, you need to stand up, be very visible, very open that I'm hiring, and I would really like to have diverse people. Someone who does this incredibly well is Jeff Sandquist of the cloud and data team, cloud and data evangelism, advocacy, something. He's on social very actively. He says, you know what, we're building our team, and he posts pictures of his team like every other week of watching them grow. Very diverse people. And he said, we're building a team with these kinds of experts. We would love to have like more machine learning, more artificial intelligence, more Azure, just different kinds of people because we need different people to build really good AI. And he's very open about the fact that we are looking, we are hiring, we want diverse people. Look, we're trying to build a diverse team. So he keeps getting diverse people. Everyone is confused about how is this happening? I said, because he's making it happen.
I love that advice.
Yes. He's not sitting in his
And he's
office.
on social media. He's on probably LinkedIn quite a bit.
He's on LinkedIn. He's on Twitter. He tells everyone. I went to his office. He said, hey, if you know any people who, have different points of view than our usual nerdy points of view on how to use Azure for all kinds of businesses, let us know. I said, oh, okay, perfect. Now he's put that in my head. Whenever I find someone, I direct them over to his team now.
That is great advice.
It's a brilliant way to do it. I don't know why everyone is not doing it. I've learned a lot from him. Next time I have an opening, to stand up, be very visible, very open about the fact that here are the qualifications that are must, like you should be a Windows insider, step one. After that, bring your skills to the table and let's see where there's a good match.
Well, and I think what you're bringing up is we have to open up a conversation.
Yes.
And that's part of what this podcast series is about is
That's right.
We got to tear open some of those things. It is okay to say we need more diverse people or we need this experiences. We need this and be open and honest about it because we need more people, like you said, to be business decision makers.
That's right.
It's the only way this cycle is going to stop.
Exactly. So leaders, be very visible and very open about what you're trying to do. More early in career folks or people who would like to be these leaders, reach out and build relationships. Right? Don't go cold apply for jobs. Like build relationships because then people will think of you when they open these positions.
So what are some good career development tips that you would say? Career development or just overall tips if you were to walk away 3 things?
Yeah.
But professionally and then if you're thinking about your business too.
Oh, for sure. I think one very, very important thing is just know what your superpower is. Many people just really lack this knowledge because we're so self-critical of ourselves, so self-critical. So when I say superpower, I mean both EQ and IQ, right? IQ is going to be the thing that your business specializes in, reselling SharePoint, Office, Azure, blah, blah, cool. But that's not the differentiator. The differentiator really is what else do you bring to the table besides a product? Is it that you own the medical market and you really deeply understand hospital administrators? Who do you deeply understand and empathize with? What will make someone choose you rather than the other guy or girl? So really your EQ superpower. Must know it very well and apply it to everything you do. Mine is customer engagement. I've applied it to every job. When I was doing a job that didn't have it, I felt very terrible and I wanted to not do that job. And it's across the products, right? The IQ part would here be, it was Siebel, it was Oracle, it was Windows, it was HoloLens, it was drivers. Now it's Windows Insiders. The product changes, the actual activity does not. I love to engage with customers, work with them to bring their feedback to product team and make changes based on it. Cool. What is your thing? Because that probably hasn't changed in your life. What do people call on you for help with? Is it negotiating? Are you an amazing negotiator? Is it organizing? Is it global things? What do people call on you with help with? And do that thing a lot. Just live that brand. So that's one very long answer. Second one is build your network. Build it, build it, build it. Build it one person at a time. This doesn't mean go to networking events and hand out cards. Make it a goal to reach out to one person a week with great admiration, right? We've talked about this. People get 1,000 negative messages for every positive message. Be the positive message in their week. Reach out to someone whose work you admire, you heard them somewhere, you heard them speak, some article, they sent a good email, whatever, and say, I really appreciated this. It stayed with me. Thank you for doing this. Just make the connection. That's all. Send them a note, send them an email, send them a whatever. And then hang on to the thread, because if you ever want to engage with them deeper, follow up on that thread. So they have that history of where you've communicated with them before. And the third one is you really need to understand, like, what is it that you want when you reach out to people, right? Whether it's, I need a partner, or I need a sponsor, or I need just more information. Know what you want in your head, because unless you know that, you can't even verbalize it, and it makes it very difficult for people to kind of help you, right? Even if it's, I'm lost and I need someone to talk it through, that's perfectly fine, but know exactly what you're trying to get. And it stems back to the first thing. I am good at this. Here's the people I want to talk to. Here's what I need. And actually there's a fourth, which is figure out what you can offer people. What is your value add? It's probably the first thing.
And in that whole process, do you think being mindful of those that you're talking to, younger, older, different colors, could that help create a workplace that does value different opinions and different processes a little bit better?
I think it's just leading by example again, where do that with different kinds of people and showcase and tell that story a lot, right? I tell the stories of my mentors right now are split, men, women, younger and older. And I love that, right? It's pretty evenly split into fourths at this point. People more senior than me, people more junior than me, but exceptional at certain things. Women and men. And that's why I feel like I'm pretty happy day to day, knowing that my network is like pretty well balanced between all these things. It's actually interesting. I have more mentees that are male than female because men reach out to me all the time and say, will you mentor and coach me? Because they inherently see that value. They don't care that I'm female.
Right.
They're not like, oh, my mentors must only be men. They don't have that. They've never had that issue, right? Yeah. I've never heard of that. No men has ever said, oh, my mentors must only be female. They just care about what exactly I know that can help them. So to them, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah. As long as I'm able to provide that value. So for women, I stress very strongly, forget about the human, like specifically the gender or the color. Think about what you're trying to learn and find someone who's going to have a different perspective than you.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of it's a mindset shift.
Exactly.
We all have to go through a mindset shift, and it starts internally.
Exactly.
First.
Exactly.
And if we can do that work, then it's going to impact the teams, the workplaces, and the work that you do for your customers.
Yes, because you're just going to understand them better when you have these different points of view.
Yeah. Well, Donna, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
I learned a lot listening today.
Thanks for having me. I can't wait to hear this.
Thanks for listening to Include. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think. And please join the conversation on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter at MS Partner.